the Numinous Podcast with Carmen Spaniola.
Hi there, and welcome to the Numinous Podcast, where we have interesting conversations with everyday folks about the mystery of life. I'm your host, Carmen Spaniola, joining you from the lands of the Insultion-speaking peoples of the Okanagan Nations, colonially known as Summerland, BC. My friends, pour yourself a cup of tea or something cozy, because my dear friend Sarah Selecky and I are going to have a chat about writing. Sarah's newest book, Story is a State of Mind, started as a writing class in her living room in Victoria, BC, like 25 years ago, right around the time we met. It has since become a unique example of how the internet has disrupted the classical education system, with her program evolving into an online setting now known as the Sarah Selecky Writing School. Her story course has been praised by the likes of Margaret Atwood and Susie Gardner. Now, when I say praised by the likes of Margaret, I know the inside baseball on how Sarah Selecky has come to know Margaret Atwood and why Margaret Atwood. I mean, these aren't my stories to tell, but like Sarah has sat at Atwood's desk looking out Margaret Atwood's window while writing some of her work. Like when she has been praised, endorsed by Margaret Atwood, that's not just like, oh, some, blurb. This is the real deal. Praise from the praiseworthy. Anyway, Sarah's debut short story collection, This Cake is for the Party, was a finalist for what's probably Canada's most well-known literary award, the Giller Prize. Her book that followed that, Radiant Shimmering Light, was optioned by Amy Adams to create a series for HBO. And her latest book, Story is a State of Mind, Writing and the Art of Creative Curiosity, is getting buzz in academic circles with profs in MFA programs across the country, adding it to their required reading lists. And so we are so lucky to have Sarah back on the program for a third time to help us bring our creative work out into the world. Sarah, welcome back. It's always a delight. I've been effervescent. I've been so excited to speak with you. Let's start with an updated intro. So what identities are you leading with these days?
Oh, I love that you asked this question. And I have to say, that's the thing that I've been thinking all day. I knew you were going to ask me that question. I was like, what am I? Because honestly, what I'm leading with internally and what I'm leading with externally are very different. Externally, I'm Canadian. I'm a dual citizen. I'm like a white woman with Italian and Slovakian heritage. And I'm a writer. I'm an intuitive. I'm a teacher. Those are like the things, but none of that feels like quite right. But that's helpful. I understand. My pronouns are she and her. And also what I'm leading with in my own practice, just internally, is like, who are you before you were born? I am, period. ... I am ellipsis. I am no punctuation. More and more time in my meditation practice is spent just like without the separation identity evaluatory label names, just as part of the practice. So coming back into identity is like, I understand it's useful and practical, but it's not my practice today. But thanks for asking.
And thank you for the useful and practical parts, and also for the glimmers of mystery that we'll get drawn into. This will be great. Okay, we're talking about I'm going to call it long-awaited, by many of us, your long-awaited book, Story is a State of Mind, Writing and the Art of Creative Curiosity. I've been around since the sort of granular early days of Sarah Selecky's living room and book clubs and being with writers, talking about writing. And I can't help but sort of feel like there's this big body of work behind what you've written. I can sense how much, I don't know, for me, if I imagine you writing it, having this big body of work and putting it into this one little book. And then there must be people besides me who are like, this totally reminds me of Natalie Goldberg's book, Writing Down the Bones, right? It's just like did you know you were about to write a classic? Were you a bit nervous to write a book that sort of, as you would say in the book, flocks together with this well-known classic? Um, you have a whole chapter where you're like publishing in flight. You should
Mhm,
look at who the comparables are. You should actually like see how you're different.
mhm.
But like, come on, you must have been like, were there questions? I'm about to basically write an updated
Huh.
contemporary Writing Down the Bones.
I wouldn't phrase it that way. It was definitely in my mind. Writing down the bones was how I started writing. Natalie Goldberg was
Right.
one of my very first teachers. Like it's definitely in the epigenetics of this,
Right.
whatever it is that we're both doing. Yeah, there are threads. It's her DNA. Writing down the bones, the DNA is in this book, probably more than any other. Um, Linda Barry's work also is really a part of this. She's also one of my first teachers. So like there's a lineage thing. Um, and I just don't, I think they are, oh gosh, so many things. It didn't make me nervous. Because the the call to create this, and I did purposely create it as a timeless classic. I wanted it to be something that was undated as much as possible. Um, the call to write it was so strong that it felt like I was part of this, yeah, like a murmuration of birds. And I feel like, okay, these are it's not, I don't think of them as comparables. Of course they are. I just don't think of that word. I think more that like we're here, this is our collective, and
Mhm.
this is what we're here to do. These are it's like these are facets of the same crystal, and you could pick up Writing Down the Bones and get Natalie's very particular style and take, and she's a practicing Buddhist, so that is very much threaded through it. And like obviously, or maybe not obviously to me, that Stories of State of Mind works with that practice. And it also is applicable in other ways. Also, the thing about Natalie's book, yes, yes, I mean, so inspired by it, of course. But I wanted to bring something that something else, like some practices that I know and that I've tried and that I've done. So yeah, it's an ode, and it's like both. It's both. It's
Mhm.
an ode to her work, and it's also the next layer of an onion, you know?
Yes, totally, totally. I do feel like it's part of an anthology or something. Like it's definitely
Mhm.
they fit together on the
Yeah.
shelf, right? And just
Yeah.
like you wouldn't have just one novel. If you really like romances, you probably aren't just going to buy one and be like, that's my favorite one. I'm not doing others. It's
And
like if you
yeah,
have favorite writing books, this is going to go right beside
yeah.
hers.
Like,
Yeah.
do we have, I don't know, do you have one pair of jeans? I have like several pairs of jeans.
Yeah, exactly. Sarah, do you follow your own writing prompts or do
I
you
do.
actually reach for other? You do.
I
You
do.
do. You actually do this. You're so disciplined.
Well, it's not that the book came first. It's
Mm,
that I had to figure something out that worked and try it. And then I was teaching at the same time. It was a nonlinear emergent thing. It wasn't like I'm going to do this and then there wasn't cause and effect in that way. It was that this is what I do.
mm,
It's like a memoir
right.
that's instructional. It's not,
Mhm,
it's like, please don't take 10 years to write your book and struggle throughout the whole time. I did that. You don't have to. Um, Look, there's this thing called trance. I mean, we work together. This is like like that we had a pretty foundational session. I had a session with you, Carmen, that was like an awakening to something that was emerging that yes had to do with the novel Radiant Shimmering Light that I was working on and my process. And I don't know, in reading my book, if you saw that come out, it was like I learned, oh, that works. Like trance and hypnosis works. This is why. This is why
mhm.
it works. And then I like found out why and did all of that. But it's a memoir.
Mhm. Amazing. So good. Thank you. You mentioned in the last time you were on the show as well, on the podcast, that you were like, I had a great, do you remember the transfer with you? I'm like, yeah, I do. I remember all the bangers. That was a really good one. That was a really great session.
It was lasting. It was lasting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. Early in your book, you share about taking piano lessons as an adult. First of all, that was
Mhm.
super brave, especially as somebody who's like quite accustomed to being very competent and good at things. Like
I know.
you must have been
Believe it or
like,
not.
this is just so
Uh-huh.
humbling. Can
Uh-huh.
you tell us how was that helpful for your writing practice and how are all the chords connected when it comes to
Yeah.
writing?
Yeah, that was actually remarkable. And she was such a good teacher. She was a jazz piano teacher. So she had a way of teaching that was different than what I had learned when I was like in grade 4. It wasn't, we didn't even look at sheet music. She was teaching me how the notes worked, how the chords connected, what a chord was, like how you could play them, and a little bit by ear, but I was writing everything down in a notebook. So I had my little composition notebook. And the lesson that I write about in the book, the piano lesson I write about in the book and how it affected my writing was she asked me to write a song, like after just a few weeks of working with her and getting the basics, like beginner's mind, a few, like some chords and what they were and how to create a chord, like what they were all named and triads, and musicians listening will know I've lost the language, so I don't even think I'm talking about it properly. She had me write down all the different chords that there could be and throw them in a mason jar and then pick out 4 of them and arrange them so they sound good together and then put words to it. Basically, write a song by picking chords out at random. And this was impossible because it didn't make any sense and the chords sounded terrible together. And this over what I write about in the essay is over time, because I had to do it, and this is the beautiful thing about having a restriction. A creative process loves a restriction. um, I just had to do it. So I was thinking about them and thinking about them and sleeping on them, and then like just hearing these chords in my head and how dissonant they were. And then what started to happen, of course, was that I started to hear how they were talking to each other in ways that weren't obvious. They were talking to each other because it's all sound. Sound is all the chords are connected. And then eventually I started to hear it in the sounds. Like I heard the tones in birdsong. I heard the tones in a hum. I heard them in motors. I heard them, like I started to see, oh, sound is connected. Like the feeling that things don't fit. It's like a mindset or a paradigm shift, similar to like I don't know if any of your listeners, I'm sure, are familiar with like the scarcity mindset versus the abundance mindset. It's like a different frame so you can see, oh, what you focus on changes everything about the experience. And what I learned through piano and seeing that all of the music, all the chords, if it's a chord, it's connected, is connection mindset rather than disconnection mindset. And that actually is how I teach writing. And it made so much sense because you can make anything a metaphor, like literally anything. And the reason you can, and I remember practicing this was a Natalie Goldberg exercise. She called it comparison. But if you like pick something at random, like bowl, and then something else at random, like, I don't know, airplane, if you don't think about it, if you think about it, then you'll find something that's connected immediately. But if it's just totally random and you try to think of something that is completely separate and then try to write a metaphor, how a bowl is like an airplane. Well, it's like a thing that holds stuff inside of it, right? It's like you can do that with anything because everything is genuinely, actually, truly connected.
Mm,
And then that just frees you up to do whatever you want when you're writing because we're the pattern makers. The
mm,
world is always everything. It's all connected, just like sound. It's like the music, it's all connected. We're the pattern makers. We make the song out of it.
mm. I mean, it must have been such I don't know, at times frustrating or just like, again, just the dysregulation of feeling not immediately good at something.
Yeah.
And then she like throws
Yeah.
this tricky one at you. But it does remind me of some of the writing prompts in your book, right? It's like,
Yeah.
try this and then this, these two things together. And I'll read it and be like, that sounds useful, but nothing in my body wants to actually do it. Do you know
Right,
what I mean? Because
right.
it's
I know
like,
what you
oh,
mean.
that seems
Yeah,
hard. But when
yeah.
you're pointing to kind of juxtaposition as being a form of connection, right?
Yep.
Can we also talk then about another sort of paradox that is
Okay.
connected? So let's talk about the paradox of discipline and intuition. This is kind of a
Okay.
theme that comes up in your book, right? Like
Yep.
we could talk about it as a balance, we could, but for instance, writing can be a very cerebral process, even when
Yep.
it's creative writing,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
in the world, there's a lot of advice about sort of getting out of your head in order to get
Yeah.
into creative, intuitive flow. But if you're trying to like write a book,
Uh-huh.
there's,
I know.
there's,
I know.
it's this tension and the paradox. And in the chapter called Your Other Brain, you
Hmm.
offer what feels like maybe a more seamless integration by bringing attention to the gut brain and the
Hmm.
cranial brain. So, what do you tell your students about what's important about that? And what do you
Yeah.
tell your students about like having instincts, good instincts, but
Yeah.
also like editorial
Yeah.
discipline, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. This is like at the heart of so much of what whatever like quote unquote problems, but problems that writers have. It's this complexity. I'm saying complexity because this is what I tell my students. It is not straightforward creative writing. It is not, it is incredibly neurologically complex what you're doing. Like we are wired to for oral narrative, for listening, for hearing stories, telling stories, all of that, yes. Reading is like pretty advanced. Like to take these glyphs and then see this as a code that first means something that is a sound, that is a word, and then beyond that to create some kind of like internal representation of an emotional, sensorial, like experiential feeling that comes from the word that is like in turn decoded from these marks on a page. Like that's weird. That's like some convoluted neurological stuff that we're doing. And then to, on top of that, to be the creator of that, to reverse engineer that whole process. So you are the one, as an author, experiencing something that has no words attached to it, something that is sensed and felt. It's like with your body, there's no words for the experience. It has emotion, it has taste, it has sound, it has feeling, it has like, I'm getting goosebumps. It has like a whole physical, relational aspect. And then what you're doing is turning that into something that is like dead on the page, but not, but like
Yeah.
you're labeling it something. You're taking it
Right.
out of the uh untranslatable and you're translating it into words in such a way that you can remain embodied. Because if you're not embodied as you do it, you end up writing stereotypes, cliches, reports, propaganda. Like it's if you're not embodied as you're doing it, then it takes the life away from it and it becomes a representation, like a label, like a post-it note that you're sticking on the experience, and your reader won't feel that. Your
Mm.
reader wants to feel it. So then what that requires you to do, like I'm not I'm going far with this just so you know that if it's hard, give yourself some grace. What you're trying to do is maintain your feeling of full whole-minded, your gut, your body, your skin, your senses, your emotional awareness, your whole four bodies, your spirit, your energy, as well as your intellect, because you
Mm.
want to make sense. Otherwise, this is crazy making. And then you're also at the same time transmitting that using the left side of your brain, using your cranial brain, using the part of you that separates logical, sequential, like understanding, evaluatory, and doing both at the same time. So there's an experience that can be created through time and space, like across the globe, even after you're dead. And you just think, oh, I should be able to do this because I learned how to write and I can write emails. Like it's not the same thing.
Okay, yeah. That's why it's so hard.
I mean, it's hard if you're trying to approach it as though it's a simple, straightforward thing.
Right.
It's not hard. It's it's not hard when when like it doesn't have it's complex.
Mm,
Um, but it's actually really simple, but it means surrendering everything that you've been taught about
mm,
what writing is and what thinking is and what your intellect can do and what your ego is in charge of and what you have to know before you're ready to start writing and all of
mm,
that stuff. It's surrender, it's unfastening, it's letting go. And that's why trance helps. That's why running or dancing helps. That's why writers have all these rituals around scent and around sound and around texture and space and light because it reminds the physical body, the emotional body, and the energetic body that they are allowed online here too. In fact,
mm,
they have a big role to play. They are
mm.
not shut out of this work the way you shut them out when you were getting your English papers in.
Right. Yeah. More than once in this book, as part of that, what you're just describing there, like, okay, we're gonna bring both parts of
Hmm.
ourselves to this practice, and it is a practice and it is a
Hmm.
discipline, but it's
Hmm.
also not, it doesn't have to be hard, but it's a
Hmm.
pretty singular feat. And
Hmm.
more than once in the book, you have your essay and then you have the practices section,
Hmm.
exercises, practices you want people to do. More than one time, the practice is to cancel something.
Yeah,
Just like clear the
right.
calendar. Why?
I wonder how
Okay,
many
so
times I've said, yeah,
but
yeah.
why is it so hard for so many of us to do? And I just mean like beyond
Hmm.
the like, oh, because we're over scheduled or capitalism or whatever, but why
Yeah.
is it so hard to block out time? And the second half is like not allow it to fill up with non-writing
Yeah.
activities. Like
Yeah.
why, when spaciousness feels so good, why
Hmm.
is it, at least for some of us, so uncomfortable to
Yeah.
just like let our calendars chill the fuck out for a little bit
Yeah.
and just
Yeah.
so we can just write?
Well, it's like it's antisocial behavior. So society frowns on antisocial behavior, I think is the main thing. I think that to go further with that, I think it's, and this is what I tell myself and remind myself and tell my students is, people are excited when they know a writer. So if you tell someone you're writing a book, everyone's excited about that. But no one's excited about like they're no it's not that they're not excited about, they don't understand the space that writing entails because it's so complex. There's not a lot of other places where this is happening. So like you can't like you can knit a sweater and listen to a podcast and chat with a friend. You can't write a book and chat with a friend at the same time. So it's not like other hobbies. It's not work because you're not making any money for what you're doing. And there's no like cost ratio. Like it's not work. Um, and it's not play because it's a practice, it's a discipline. So it's not like leisure. You can't go like I remember trying to write in Hawaii when I was in Hawaii once, and it was just like the vibe in Hawaii is not conducive to me writing this book at all. Like everyone here is just like flinging around their flip-flops on the lanai, and I can't get any work done. But it's not work. It's not work. It's not play. It's antisocial. And on top of that, like it's you need to be alone a lot of the time when you do it unless you have a really strong network. And that's like it's really hard on your mental health. Like it can be, and I write about this, like it can actually genuinely um be not good for you mentally. So there's probably a part of you unconsciously that's, the prime directive of the unconscious mind is to protect you at all costs, no matter what you want to do. So if it's keeping you from writing, it might be because it's not good for your mind if you go to a cyclical pace there. So, and then on top of all of that, but I do think that's kind of the main thing is that we don't know what to call it. We don't know where to put it. There's no color in the calendar for it. Planners aren't based for it. It's like there's the week and the weekend. What is writing? You have to create, you have to like chisel out the time. And then I also think from the writers who I've worked with, who are mainly women or marginalized folks who give a lot of care. It's like there's a power dynamic where taking time for yourself to pursue something that is neither restful nor productive for the economy or like your family or your community now, like it may be that your book is nourishing bread to the hungry later. But now, when you are writing it, it feels like you're just locking yourself up, like Emily Dickinson, to like talk to yourself and complain a lot. So your friends are like, why do you want to do it? And and you're not helping anybody. So I think that's harder for certain genders and people than others, I will say.
Mm. You know this intimately somewhere in the book, and maybe it's the acknowledgments, I'm not sure, but you talk about how your husband Ryan, like you wrote this into your wedding vows that he would give you a lot of alone time. Like how
Yeah.
can you share a bit about
Yeah.
how did you arrive at that kind of ritual? What did he say? What's the promise?
The promise, it's a quote from Rilke actually, that we protect each other's solitudes. And that's
Mm.
the line that we put in our vows. Now, Ryan doesn't need a lot of solitude. He really doesn't. He's a middle child. It's not a thing, it's not a request. But I was like, if you ever need me to protect your solitude, I'm here. I don't know if I ever have needed. I mean, maybe when he needs to sleep. Maybe if he's like, maybe if he's, but I'm an only child. So like it's a base level and I'm an introvert. So there's a base level of just like my battery will be depleted and I will not feel like surviving if I don't have the energy that being alone takes. And certainly when we were courting and writing our vows, I was writing books. It was like all about writing. At the current moment, it's also just about this white space. It's about meditation. It's about being myself without anybody
Mm.
looking. And and I think I'll check with him actually, yeah, and see if if he's ever called on it. But I certainly have.
Mm.
Yeah. And
Mm.
sometimes it looks like, you know, me say, like saying right now, what would be really great is if you told me, go get your journal and write. And I need to be alone to do that. But I could, but it's like, this thing. And he's like, right, go get your journal and write. I'm like, thanks. It's like, all right. We just need to articulate it. Yeah.
Uh, can I ask you an even more personal question about how much time you give yourself? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just like
Hmm.
now it's
Yeah.
like I'm critiquing your outfit on the red carpet or something. This is like a
Right.
very like,
Sure.
inquisitive. It's like maybe personal, but you're a writer and a teacher of
Yeah.
writing and a writing mentor.
Yeah.
And so, like, I would consider you, when I think of all the writers I know, you're top of the list. I'm like, this is a person who is a writer through and through. How much time alone, how much
Yeah.
solitude does it actually take for you?
Okay.
I know
So
it won't be
a
a
lot.
universal thing, but
Yeah. No, it's a lot. It's more than you might think. But I'm also a really slow writer, a really slow thinker. I'm a very kinesthetic processor, and I have learned that people are way faster at putting shit together than I. Sorry, can I swear on your podcast?
yeah,
Sorry.
totally. Yeah.
People are way faster at like comprehension and like I need to if I'm gonna before I think about this is the example Ryan often uses is like, do you want coffee this morning? What mug do you want it in this morning? Because that's part of it. And then I'll be like thinking. And I go through and in my whole body I have to feel what it feels like in my hand. Oh, sorry about that
It's
sound.
okay.
I have to think about what it feels like in my hand and then how it will feel, how the coffee will taste if it comes out of a certain pottery mug or not. So it takes like seconds and
Yeah.
then I'll give the answer. And it's like that with every scene. So I'm very slow. I'm a slow processor. So I probably need more than most.
Okay.
I will also say, to be specific about it, that before moving out to the country, when I lived in Toronto, when I lived in the city, and had multiple jobs as well, and Ryan had a job, like things, my life is different now and much more isolated now. So it's the default is to be alone a lot more.
Mm,
But before that was the case, I would chunk it out. That was
mm.
my way of doing it. So it wasn't every day I had like hours to myself. Even weekly, I didn't have hours to myself, but I knew in my mind that next month I had a full weekend booked at an Airbnb, or
Okay.
I was going to Banff for 10 days in October. So I can work through this summer knowing that that's happening in October. And
Okay.
that was the way that I like went away where no one could find me and put on an autoresponder. And I still do that. I did that occasionally. No, you know what? I didn't for Story State of Mind. I didn't have the time. I
Mm,
put on an autoresponder, but everything else was up just to like maintain inbox pause, like just so that I
yeah.
wouldn't have to listen to all the
Yeah.
stuff that was coming in for several periods during the when there was a push to deadline for editorial.
Okay.
Um, but otherwise, it was now, I'll say, otherwise now it's like 2 hours every morning,
Wow.
where I wake up and I won't consume any media. I won't consume anything. I will do my meditation, have coffee, no chit chat, journaling, and then sometimes reading. I'll read like deep focus time for reading because like long form, long form books, like they're the best. And like being able to sit and read for like 30 minutes or an hour at a time, it's so much better for my comprehension, so much
Mm.
better for my nervous system. And like this shouldn't like this used to also be how I learned. Like I'm Gen X. I'm this is like not
Yeah.
so I don't know. I need to hang out with more Gen Zs and see if it's the same. I'm sure it's not the same.
No,
But
it's not the
that's
same.
yeah.
Having that deep focus, even as a Gen X who totally grew up
Yeah.
as like a library kid and a book kid
Yeah.
and, you know, easily a book or two a week, like
Yeah.
with all the activities that I was doing, I was
Yeah.
still able
Yeah.
to, you know,
Yeah.
and it's perimenopause too, but like there's a comprehension thing that I'm just I'm not as deep a reader. So I can
Yeah.
read quickly, but it's not landing as deeply. And
Yeah.
when I am reading deeply, it's hard for me to go long form for sure.
Yeah.
So there's a
Yeah.
change in what's happened there. But I am in awe of the idea of having a quiet 2 hours morning. And you can tell in your writing it, but even especially earlier, this cake is for the party. That is
Hmm.
such an exquisitely crafted, meticulously structured, very carefully written book.
Hmm.
Like it's an incredible book of, would you call it novella,
Yeah.
essays? They're like connected
Short
but
stories.
separate short
Like
stories,
short
book of short
stories. Yeah.
stories. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you can tell that this is a person who is like really carefully cleansing in the editing to make this just right. And you would have to have had space for that. You couldn't just like fire that off. You can tell in your
Well,
writing.
editing, yeah, and editing doesn't take me as long as generating.
Mm,
The editing,
mhm.
once you have something there, the editing is polishing something that's already there. Like creating something out of nothing, that's the thing that I need the white space for.
Right.
That's the
Gotcha.
generative, that's the space. The polishing can happen in, you can do, and there's short stories. Those short stories that you mentioned as well is like the benefit of a short story is it's only like 20 pages or so, and it's concise. It doesn't have that same overwhelming aspect of a
Yes.
novel.
Yeah. Okay,
Uh-huh.
let's then talk about the overwhelm part then.
Yeah,
Okay,
let's
so
talk about that.
I want to talk about the confounding wholeness of knowing everything at once. I read
Yeah,
that chapter title and was like, that's my problem.
I
That's
know.
always my problem. I everything comes to me fully formed. And then even trying to just write a proposal for it is like, oh, it's so difficult for me because it's like I have to unmake a house to show you how I built a house.
Yep.
Like it's
Yep.
already what? So this is where I'm currently stuck with
Okay.
my next book, which is going to be about contact nutrition.
Great.
I've been stuck with it for years. So, like,
Great.
how do you advise people to move through that space where we know the whole thing that we
Yeah.
want to write, but
Yeah.
parsing it out into not just orderly chapters, but like adding some surprise and delight,
Yeah. Yeah.
bringing your beginner's mind, bringing some charm to
Yeah.
it, like all of
Yeah.
that kind of causes brain freeze.
Yeah. Yes. So first of all, when you're in brain freeze, the first thing to do is not get to like the first thing is to melt and soften the brain freeze. So that is like when you get there, it's not the time to try to figure it out. So once you hit that space, then you can bring on the kindness of presence and like loving presence. And you can do that with a pen in your hand by writing down a description of a very small detail of something that you notice that you never noticed before, and that will bring all of your whole body back online. You'll be in the energy of that thing. I tell my writers as a daily practice, actually, before you start writing anything, because it's always going to get somewhat overwhelming because you're creating something that hasn't been created before. So it is confounding. So, a great daily practice is deep noticing, where you tell yourself, like, notice something that you've never noticed before this moment. And that could be like a quality of light on a tassel of a blanket that you just never, like, you may have seen it, but you never noticed it. And then tell yourself, I want to notice this detail 3 years from now.
Mm.
And then look at it and let it in at that level. What happens is there's a feeling your consciousness extends to the thing that you're noticing, and you become the thing that you're noticing for a minute. And then once that feels like, okay, it's part of you and you're part of it, then just jot it down. And it contains all the energy and all the presence. You don't need to do anything fancy in your writing. And once you do that, there's a feeling of alignment and rightness, and you feel like connected again to the consciousness that's writing you. And from there, then you can start mind mapping or getting out the index cards or doing something fun and crafty with your big, big idea, remembering that it's not a linear process. So you're not going to get it down from point A to point B. You're not going to layer in the surprise and delight in the first stage. Like, not, it's not, you're not like all of this can happen. Again, if you remember, if you're connected to that feeling that you get in deep noticing, which is a kind of timelessness, then that takes away the overwhelm, which is a time anxiety as well. It's that
Mm.
linearity. It's the like the hungry ghost of linear process. It's like never enough, never enough. And that is not what you're after here. Yes, you are putting something into very linear form. I mean, like excruciatingly linear. Like a sentence is like the syntax of these sentences is like so linear. And then you have to number the pages, and it's like, how many times do I wish that I could just create a book that was spiral bound, that's basically a circle? Like, but no, this is like the paradox of being a spiritual being in a human physical body, of being infinite and mortal at the same time. Like, we need to put it in a form that has page numbers. So we're going to do that. And we're going to do that with presence on our side, with like feeling connected to that deep presence. And then it becomes more playful. And then I have like really practical things to do, which mind mapping is a big one. Get a big piece of paper and everything, big brain dump, and everything that, the confounding wholeness of knowing everything at once, get it out of your head and get it onto the paper. And
Mm.
then you can play with it. Then it's your Play-Doh. Then you can move it around. Then you have something to work with. Then you can put it on index cards and move those around. Big into using your hands. Don't try to use Scrivener right away.
Mm.
Don't try to make it linear before it's ready to be linear. Doesn't have to.
Mm.
And then it
Mm.
becomes like more like you're collaborating with something else that is confounding and whole and knows everything at once and knows way more than you do. And it's got it. And it's not up to you. Like, you don't have to know everything at once and how it all fits, because that is taken care of. You need to be able to touch it and access it so that you can bring it through as the human being you are. And you know how to
Wow.
do that just by being present, but you do need to practice the presence.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, I haven't been practicing the presence so great while you're answering this question, because all I can think of, Sarah, I'm time traveling to almost 30 years ago in your like kind of dark upstairs apartment with that guy. I can't remember anyway. And we, and you talking the same kind of stuff or the same kind of way, but it's like, oh my God, you had to become 50 years
Yeah.
old for this to just be like so, so golden, Like, I'm like, this is gold, what you're giving me. And do you ever feel like that's kind of part of the wholeness, is like you are doing the same thing you've already done. You've known this since the very beginning, but now you're 50 something, and this is
Yeah.
just like chef's kiss. It's so good now.
Thank you. It's so amazing to like know someone who's known, like, we've known each other for so long. So you really have been part of this entire journey pretty closely. Yeah, I've always been, this is the, like, I used to think like, oh my God, I remember when I was like, I'm trying to write a metaphor But all I need to do, if I want to make this metaphor, all I need to do is practice mindfulness because I was meditating back then. And these things would happen in my meditation practice that then I would bring to my writing. And it was like blowing my mind. So I was like pretty excited and pretty frisky about it and like really wanted everybody else to know. And I was also thirsty for like, what if it happens this way? What if it happens that? What if it happens for this? So I was like learning. But yeah, I'm talking about the exact same thing. You're right. I've been talking about this for all this time. But the world has also changed.
Yeah.
So, like, I feel like I wasn't like, it felt pretty risky to say in UBC that I was studying mindfulness. Like, that wasn't like wellness wasn't a
Yeah.
wasn't really a word and a concept. Like, this was it felt like I felt like I was uncovering something that the academics around me needed to learn, but there was no way in.
Right. Yeah.
There was no way in.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, it's not worth thinking about. But I mean, that's why I started my own writing school
Hmm.
because there was nowhere else for me to talk this way. But now
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the case. I'm not
Well, there
sure.
might not be many places that are doing it the way that you're doing it, but again, that's partially because you've been doing it for 30 years. So
That's right.
had a lot of time and a lot of students to be able to, have that sort of sexy collaboration between their work and your work and the cosmos and the moment in time and all of that stuff become very emergent. So who else would have had anyway? It's pretty
Well,
rare.
and I think that writers have this is timeless. Like I think writers have been doing this. Artists certainly have, and I think writers, this is what writers have been talking about and doing. This is what poets have been after. I think this is the mystery. It's just bringing this, what I say, like the intellect into the intuition together, like not being afraid of the intuition because it's unknowable, but actually
Mhm.
welcoming it in. And I think
Mhm.
maybe that's it. Like to face the unknowable is probably pretty threatening to the mind that likes to know. It's like really
Mhm.
threatening. So like let's just I don't know, integrate the two a little bit. We can do so much more.
Okay, there was a great part in your book where a mentor kind of challenges you very gently on this. You share a story of being on a writing retreat and you're like so excited to bring your revisions to this esteemed mentor. And then you like list off all these places where you're stuck or you think there needs to be some tweaking. She asks you, why are you turning all your creative choices into problems? I was like, oh, I would have fallen over if my esteemed mentor said that in front of everyone. Not like it's so insulting, but I was just like, oh my gosh, I felt that so deeply. It was like profound simplicity, but also kind of a shocking confrontation of like being in your own way. Or I sort of reading it, even I felt the shame of engaging with my own writing like it's a problem for me. Like, I guess as an animist, it was like, oh my gosh, what an insulting thing to be like, here's all it was so, I don't know, like I could just see that in myself of being quite critical of something that's like such a, I don't know, like I was just like, ouch, ouch, too accurate.
Yeah.
So these
Yeah.
aren't problems you have to solve, but choices you get to make. How did
Yep.
that question impact you?
Oh my God.
Can you give some like examples of like tangible ways that
Yeah.
confrontational question, really,
Yeah.
not in a mean way, but just like, pretty challenging. How has it shifted your writing process?
Uh, the mentor in question is the author Karen Joy Fowler, who I love. And I think that I don't know for sure. I mean, she's just a master. She's amazing. I think she also writes sci-fi, speculative fiction, literary fiction, historical fiction. She writes everything, short fiction, like but I think especially her relationship to the speculative and sci-fi world and those authors gave her this capacity to be like a literary author who also is so on side with the power of creativity. And it is a power. So I was shocked. I was really stunned. I went into a bit of a shock, as you described. I was like, it was a total interruption of everything that I thought I knew that I was supposed to do, which is somehow, ultimately, it's just like somehow doing it right and not doing it wrong. That's ultimately as though there's some multiple choice, as though it's a puzzle that I'm not also creating at the same time. Like but there is a feeling that I need to solve for X because it's mental work. And I'm studying all of this and I'm like, I have my degree and there's like some, it's just it's built in. It's this internalized feeling. She broke that open and it was one of those, it was just like such, it was so meaningful and so memorable in that way of like a veil being lifted, that kind of way. Like it wasn't, it was like revealing something I'd always known to be true, which is you get to do whatever you want. You're a creator. But there's a lot of power in that. Like I was just uncomfortable with the power. I think I was
Mm.
just uncomfortable. I was unsure of how much power I really had and how risky it is to make something out of nothing. It's like you're taking a huge risk. So if you're doing something that you know could be seen as right, it's not as risky, but then you're not making anything new. Like creative work is just inherently uncertain and powerful. It is making. So so a tangible is just like all the decisions from there, from then on, were like, oh, so point of view is one. I had rewritten the point of view of this novel a couple of times and was starting on the third. I had initially decided that it was a first person narrative, which meant it was all from the protagonist's point of view. But then as I started working through the plot, I soon discovered, oh, I painted myself in a corner because if I only can show what she's thinking, I have to show all the nuance and all the subtext and all the stuff, all the meta stuff in the story through a protagonist who doesn't know, who doesn't see it herself. So I have to arrange it in this extra. So I made myself like a really hard job. So I was questioning, ooh, maybe this is not the right way to do it. I should make this third person narrative so that I can tell the whole story.
Mm.
Similarly, the tense, I had chosen present tense because I wanted this to be a book about presents.
Mm.
So this is like, dun, dun, like funny little clever trick. I'm going to make it first person present tense, which means I painted myself into quite a corner because this complex story that I wanted to tell would have to be told only moment to moment,
Mm.
only in the present moment. I had opportunities for flashbacks, but anything that was happening in the moment had to be happening in the moment through the eyes of this very naive character who was on a journey
Mm.
that I knew where it was going to go. And I knew that I wanted the reader to know two different things at once while she didn't know. So it was just like, what am I doing wrong?
Right.
So that's one example where I just decided, nope, that's my creative challenge. That's why I'm writing this book to figure out how to do that. And then when the problem dissolved, I was like, oh, now I get to play with my tools
Mm.
because this is what I want to do. So anything like, should the dress be a blue dress? What does that signify? What does it symbolize? What is blue? I was like, or should it be like a yellow dress? Like you just choose. And then there's a trust or like naming characters. That's another big one. Like what is the like historical context? What does this bring up for this reader or that reader? But then also, what do you feel like?
Mm. Mm.
What do you feel the name is? And then trusting again that something is being written with you're writing something with something that you can't know. So when you don't know what you're doing and you make a choice anyway, that is creative writing.
Mm.
It's not a problem to be stuck, not like being stuck is the problem, but it's not a problem not knowing which way is the right way to turn.
Mm.
So yeah. So
Mm.
then I just decided on a map and an outline. I decided I wasn't going to have chapters to keep that feeling of rushing forward. Like, should I have chapters or not have chapters? Any one of these things stopped me.
Right.
All of these decisions stopped me because I was like, I don't know. How do you write I'd never written a novel before. I'd only written short stories. How do you know if you are allowed? Am I allowed to write a book with no chapters? It's novel. It's a novel. Like the word is novel. You just make it happen. You
Mm.
get to do whatever you want. And
Mm.
there are writers who do complete their MA in English. There are creative writing programs. I think Guelph has one of these where you have a master's program in creative writing. So you have a dissertation and people like ask you about yourself. You have to like present, I don't know what it's called. Like your thesis is your novel. And then people ask you, why did you choose first person? Why did
Right.
you choose present tense? I didn't write my novel, and I wrote my novel in an MFA program where I didn't have to prove anything, but boy, do I feel like proving it now because I made all those choices for reasons.
Right. Right.
for reasons. But anyway, so that's the piece. You just decide and you just get right with the power that you have. And then
Mm-hmm.
put things into place that help you feel okay with that. So have a trusted advisor, have a lieutenant by your side, have an editor, have like beta readers who you trust, like not just anybody.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, like put your resources where it will help you be the powerful creator that you are, and then
Mm-hmm.
do it and make your thing.
So, okay, this is sort of guiding us towards finishing our thing. And
Yeah.
what I love about your book, Stories of State of Mind, is that you talk about finishing for several chapters. And you're like, okay, now we're finishing this part, and now we're finishing that part, and now we're finishing that part, and now there's the aftercare, and there's.
Hmm.
But when I look back on the process of completing my two books, I have two books. I wish I had taken more time to savor the finish.
Yeah.
And one of your chapters, it's actually an earlier chapter, you recommend we visualize the finish early in the writing process and then just like let the work guide us there.
Yeah.
And you also say to anchor to the feeling of the moment of done, like very classic hypnotherapeutic
Yep.
intervention, anchor to
Yes.
the feeling, right?
Yes.
Having finished, but not being able to remember
Right.
those moments very well. And like, you've trained as a hypnotherapist yourself. Do you have any advice on then how can I use like a similar anchor for my next book,
Hmm.
which on the one hand, it confounds me with its
Hmm.
wholeness, but
Yep.
on the other hand, it's also sort of concealing the end place from me at the moment. Like, where am I? Like, when you've just done work for so long and you're like, yes, no, I need to get this work out. I'm sure Story of State of Mind
Yep.
was a bit like that. You're like, I have to get this out. It's like a text, it's like the
Was
foundational
it?
piece. People are waiting, and I
Yep.
want them to have it because I don't want to have to keep repeating myself and teaching this all over. Like, people should be able
Yep.
to disseminate this, but you're like so inside the work. It's like, where what is the end point of
Yeah.
that? So I feel like I have this, again, a paradox. I have this wholeness, but I also don't know where the end is taking me. And I feel almost like I missed the opportunity two times now to kind of have like that sort of and scene kind of moment and to anchor to
Right.
a feeling of satisfaction. What would
You
your
didn't miss it.
mentor
Okay.
self say?
Here's what I would say. Okay. Such a great question. I love this question. I love talking about finishing. Um, so first of all, you can anchor to the feeling of finishing, like the neurochemistry, the chemicals that are in your body by anything that you finish. So slowing down and practicing, like finishing that last bit of jam in the jar in the fridge. But don't just so the same way you want to hang out longer, like you wish you could hang out longer with finishing both of your two books. Hang out with finishing the jar jam.
Mm,
Hang out with finishing like when you're feeding your horses and you finish the last flake of hay, just hang out there and you know how to feel feel what's happening physiologically.
mhm,
And then you could even break it down slower, like frame by frame. So before you finish that last teaspoon of soy sauce, how does it feel? So like pause. Ooh, it's like a little bit of agitation, a little bit like I talk about library books. I think in the book I do, or maybe in a class I do, before returning a library book that's like not fully read, but it's due. I feel
yeah.
this like there's like it's almost like the feeling between two magnets that are like positive together. It's like a little bit of repel, like I can't do that. And so like pause there. That's a feeling. That's a
Mm,
sensation. Okay. If you stretch that out, if you think about approaching the finish of your book, it's a lot similar. It's not that dissimilar.
mm.
It may be amplified. It may have different context. But the chemical is related. It would be hashtagged under the same place. And then do the thing, finish the thing, and pay attention, pause there. How does it feel in the act of finishing? Like there might be a little bit of heightened energy. There might be a feeling of like,
Yeah,
ooh,
I'm
like
like
like a little
anxiety. Yeah.
adrenaline, a little, yeah,
Okay.
like a little bit of that, like a little, oh gosh, that's okay. But it's like it's not a problem to feel those feelings. Just like note
Yeah.
the feelings. Right. That's the act of finishing. It has some energy to it, for sure. It has some energy to it. Just like starting, but with a different flavor than starting
Mm-hmm.
something, but it's similar.
Hmm.
And then after you finish the thing, hang out there and like see what feel like there's a feeling of spaciousness, maybe. There's a feeling of quiet. There's actually another form of energy. Oh, there's like a flavor of something else that tastes different. It's like like a freeing energy, but it's also like the start of something new. Interesting.
Hmm.
Okay. And just get to know your cocktail.
Hmm. Yeah, the excitement of like, ooh, okay, finish that. What's next? There, like,
Right.
it's like, oh, now it's
It's the
going
whole
out. What's
package. Like it's
yeah.
actually, yeah, finishing has a lot going through it. So we resist it. I know that not all writers, but there are a lot of writers who they'll get to starting, they'll get even through that the middle, but then finishing requires this other kind of energy that is not unrelated to our mortality, I would
Hmm.
say, on a like it is not it is approaching the death card in tarot. It is not like transformation is no easy feat. It's not simple.
Hmm.
And so we will, if we don't intentionally put our energy towards it, of course we'll avoid that.
Hmm.
Of course we'll avoid doing that. And it's like, no, it's okay. It's just like again, the kindness of being like, it's okay.
Hmm.
Look at all these other things that are happening in there. This is great. Yeah.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
that's the first piece around that, like just slowing it down so you know how it feels. And then when you have that, you can bring that up anytime because you finish things all the time. Every day you finish things. Getting a haircut, that's a great way to express to
Mm.
feel like the finishing vibes.
Yeah.
The other thing about visualizing the finish, so in fiction, there's a really straightforward way to do this, which is visualizing the final scene of your book, which is like
Mm.
imagine an imaginary world. So it's like it's a vision, it's a trance, it's like it's a you can use your active imagination to go there. With nonfiction, it's a little bit different, and it depends book to book what you're doing, but you could, depending on how you work, you could visualize the sensation and the feeling of the object in your hand. You could visualize for stories state of mind. I visualized the final pages. So
Mm.
like visualizing that at the end of this book, I wanted white space.
Mm.
And so I had this like somehow I didn't know how I was going to get there because I didn't have the outline yet, but I was like, I just want it to feel like I want the end to feel spacious. And then I was like, oh no, literally. I literally want like blank pages with a little bit of writing on top. And then and then it's the same way a vision board works, like Vision Board
Mm.
101. You set up the vision and then you forget it, but you've set your coordinates in your unconscious mind to bring you there. And a lot of the writing process is unconscious. A lot of it, if you're doing it right. A lot of it is part of you is just completely offline and letting something else drive while you pay attention to your sentences, to your handwriting, to, page count, to all the things that you can measure in a productive and effective way, not whether it's good or not. That's not
Mhm.
that's not effective evaluation.
Mhm.
And then let your writing write you there and be open. So opening up to your dreams, journaling in the morning, going for long walks, being open. That's where the white space really comes in because if you're cluttered or crammed or scheduled like a normal human being today is
Mhm.
scheduled, this is not normal work to receive stuff from a space we don't have a name for. It's not normal work.
Mhm.
If you don't, it's harder to read those signals. It's harder to hear them when they come in. So
Mhm.
this is where your intuition is coming in, and that is how it actually is a way easier process and actually takes a lot less time because you don't have to think everything up.
Right.
You, that's effortful. You don't have to think everything up. You can use your tools, your humble tools, which are very good. We're good writers. We have syntax. We have like editorial. We understand things. It's very good. But the rest of it comes through us, and we learn it as we write it. And
Mm.
then the third piece of finishing and visualization is visualizing yourself, like in your space where you finish it, and being open to any images or sensations or knowings that drop in, any insights that drop in about where you'll be, who's with you. When you look at, like, if you're in a room with a window, what season is it? What, like, anything, any clues, and however information comes to you, whatever senses or knowing that comes to you, trust what comes, know it, fill it out a little bit, maybe write it down because it's nice to write it down, but don't write it down to like pin it up. You don't need to like
Right.
aim for it because you've already set it when you know that the setting has been made. And then when you get there,
Mhm.
if you're paying attention still, you will feel that like um that magical that magical surreal feeling of like a wish coming true. It's like, oh, it's almost like um
Is that T.S.
deja
Eliot? You
vu.
find yourself arriving at the place where you started or something like that.
Oh,
Isn't
it's
that?
beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's in my experience, it's been a very surreal, it's like a waking dream because you've dreamed the thing in your imagination, and then little flickers of the thing you dreamed are in your real life. And it feels like, oh, right, like there, oh, yeah, like I imagined a pine tree below, out the window, but I don't have a pine tree out my window, whatever. But then come to find out, like, you never would have known, but your friend invited you to go to like Greece, and then you're like, oh, I'm not going to get anything done if I go, but I'm going to go, whatever. And then there was this like dream, and then you met this person who invited you to their bookstore, which was like out on the coast, and it was so amazing. And then you're like, oh my God, you finish the thing, and you look out, and there's like pine trees through the window. You're like, oh, I made this. I made this. What is it? I'm here.
Yes. Okay, and then hypno to hypno, you could put some post-hypnotic suggestions into that first one where you're like, and I'm gonna remember this moment when so you're visualizing and you're like, and then I will remember and I will recall that I sat here today and I'll remember the, texture of the sweater I'm wearing and I'll remember, that my tea was getting cold and da da da, like you could
Yes.
put yourself in that loop of yeah, I love it.
I
Yeah.
love it. I mean, it, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so you have a chapter titled You're a Writer. You put it pretty much in the middle, I think. And the exercise is basically just to say that out loud. There's like different ways, but basically
Hmm.
you're like, and then you're just going to say it in
Hmm.
conversation. So I
Yeah.
am the author of 2 published books. I read that exercise and was like, I can't. It's too, no. Like, and
Mm.
I love your book so much. I believe in these exercises. I use these exercises. I will give this book to every writer friend that I know. And this book, much like the original, like the story course, the online,
Yeah.
which helped me feel confident to even consider putting together a proposal, like and writing a book. I know it's all going to help me write better. It already has, but I still read it thinking, none of this is for me.
Mm.
This is for real writers. This is for
Mm.
people who know or have always known. Like, and so I'm curious. Like, obviously, I've had coaching on this. I've done,
Yeah.
and I've gotten
Yeah.
a couple of books out. So, like, nobody feels sorry for me. I don't need like a, you know, self-esteem pep talk. But what I'm really curious about is, do you think that affects my writing? Just philosophically,
Huh.
how important is it to identify or acknowledge oneself as a writer?
I don't know if it affects your writing or not. I don't know. I think if you have the capacity to go into that trance, into that whole-minded state and write, I think your writing knows what it wants to do, and you and your writing are doing. I think that your relationship to your writing, it might affect. Like it
Mm,
might be some fragmentation that isn't necessary that creates a bit of friction in your life
mm.
that probably would be easier without it there. I mean, is a what's a what do you think a writer is?
Well, I can look around at people that I know. Like I look at you, I look at JB McKinnon, I look at people that I know are writers who think about sentence structure. They can come up with original metaphors. They and they can do it just in conversation. They're eloquent.
Hmm.
They're I feel like the older I get, kind of the more crass I get, and the less I'm able to summon the lyricism. Maybe there's just something, there's another exercise in your book where you basically do compare yourself to other people, and you're
Yeah.
like, what is that teaching you? Your envy is
Yeah.
teaching you this, and
Right.
that sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
So
useful.
that could be a useful one for me, but it's like I know a writer when I see one, when I read one, right? They've created something that I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
that is so beautiful.
Okay.
I want to
So
crush
you're
this book against
separating
my
yourself.
chest.
Right. So something in you is separating yourself from the thing that you love and admire as like a separate.
I guess I love their voices. I love your writing voice. I don't love my writing voice. And I don't know
Right.
that I
Yeah.
want to work on it.
Right.
Do
No,
you know what
you
I
don't need to
mean?
love your, I don't know that I don't love my writing voice the way I love
Mm.
like other people. I don't love my writing voice. What I love is my relationship to writing. So
Mm.
the writing, like my writing voice, I don't know. I don't know. I know when like I can tell like AI has brought a whole other conversation into this like thing about voice. So there's definitely this is a transition moment I'm thinking a lot about.
Mm.
But beside that, the if you think about your that you and writing are in a relationship,
Mm.
what other like everyone gets to be in a relationship. Like JB McKinnon is in a relationship with his writing that I don't like. I
Mhm.
like, yeah, he's a writer with his writing. Like, I mean, everybody's got their own relational
I don't
aspect.
even think of being okay. Here's now I'm getting it.
Yeah.
I'm in a relationship with the reader because I
Hmm.
want them to have this information, and I
Yeah.
want them to have
Uh-huh.
a diving board or a jumping off point. I want them to have something because I
Yeah.
want them to give themselves experiences
Yeah.
that are rich,
Yeah.
So it's like I'm
Yeah.
in a relationship with them,
Yeah.
and I almost see, I mean, again, as an animist, I feel really badly about the books and the writing, but it's like I almost see the need for it to come through me as like an obstacle. I'm trying to get myself out of the way as much as possible so that the
Right. Yeah.
thing can be
Right.
beautiful and
Right.
useful.
Right. Oh, Carmen.
Is this not,
It's
yeah,
like
is this affecting?
so
Okay.
good. Yeah, no, it's so good. Well, I don't think you can separate yourself from your work that way. Like, I don't think it's like the separating is it probably is causing some friction. I can imagine that it would cause some friction because there's like all these other like there's like all these I don't know what to call them, but it's not there are some knots and there's some kinks in the hose, I'll just say.
Right. Yeah.
Like what you want to come through you can't come through you without you writing it if you want it to come through in the form of a book.
Hmm.
So you being a writer loosens that knot so it just allows the thing to reach your writer faster, better, more fluidly. And when you're in relationship with your own process, with like acceptance about who you are and what you can, how you can serve it in this formation of what it wants to do, your readers only benefit from that clarity and love. Like
It's true.
that energy is not separate from what you give. That is what
Hmm.
you give. And that is felt in the sentences. I think that I mean, this is, this is maybe another thing, but I do think sometimes about the paradox that we're in as writers who are using print, um, because we are writing alone, and so we're like we're writing these stories alone, and it's a little bit it's a bit of a disadvantage to who we are as the animals we are to be doing
Mm-hmm.
this alone. So it is like mental work that is extreme and it's not um it's harder to access that signal
Hmm.
from what you want to write or from the beyond or from the mystery, the ideas, whatever anybody wants to hear. It's harder to access that alone. The
Hmm.
volume and the clarity goes up when we come together and write together. I mean, experiences I've had in Banff, and you can talk to the least woo-woo people who go
Hmm.
to Banff and write together. It's a valley. It's like this bowl slash airplane of people who are creating, who are tuning into that signal together in the forest. And it's undeniable that the signal goes up. It doesn't mean that
Mhm.
it's easy. You're still alone in your little room, but if you want to tap into the collective energy of tapping in, it's there for you. And
Mhm.
that is what we're doing in writing. I think that is what we're doing. It's just
Mhm.
that it's this um, scalpeled apart, fragmented, solitary way of doing it that's harder.
Mhm.
So I think that, yeah, I mean, of course, anyone who writes is a writer, as far as like, if you're writing, you're a writer. Like, it's it's a verb for something that is like, if there's no, everyone's a different writer, but like, it's like you're a
Mhm.
writer. Of course, you're a writer. But whatever that means, that is keeping you separate from the energy of that source that's coming through you, I don't think it's useful. I think it
Mhm.
maybe could be discarded in service of the work.
Mhm. I'm going to take that to heart for sure. Okay, moving towards the last question. I'm going to ask you a question that you write in the book that honestly is quite devastating. I was like, how dare she? That was
Yeah.
rude. It was so pointed and poignant. And I was like, I I don't even want to go there. But I'm going to ask you this question, Sarah Selecky, this brave question. What is the thing you're most afraid someone could say about your writing?
Oh, that was in the shadow chapter, yeah?
Oh gosh, yeah. Just gutting. I was like, no, I don't want to articulate this. You go first.
Oh yeah. I don't know. Um, I mean, look, I've had I've had a good rainbow of reviews that I've read, like 1 star reviews, 5 star reviews for the same book, like utter crap. But I don't think that utter crap is the worst thing. For me, something about like that it's like not alive or present. I think it's just probably, but even as I say that, there's something that feels a little false here because probably someone could say that. I think what I'm afraid of, it wouldn't be something human that comes to critique it. I'm afraid that it would be um, out of service with the source that is writing it with me, would be my deepest fear. That it's out of alignment with um, the force of nature, or like creative force or curiosity. If it's out of alignment with that somehow, I feel like I haven't. That would be really terrible. But the paradox in that is like, how could I? How? Like I don't like it would. It's a loopy thought because of the nature of my writing practice. But that's why I write the way I do, because I think that's the fear underlying it, is that there's some like malfunction in the expression of myself in this physical plane, in
Mhm.
this life, in this mortal finite life that I am living, that is antithetical to like a life affirming way of being, because I want it to be life affirming.
Mm. I love that it's like so much about integrity for you. I love that. Yeah, I couldn't even answer that question because I kept going, no, there was probably a worse thing. And then I would be like, no, that's not the worst. This is the worst. It's like, oh my God. It's so funny because I actually don't really I don't want to say I don't care. I do care. I obviously want something to be really good. I want it to be really, really good. But I think I'm also pretty realistic about like my skillfulness and the time I'm putting in and my writing practice and all that kind of stuff, right? So I think I'm quite pragmatic in my approach. And so, you know, and I'm also I've been in like marketing. I've been on the internet for a minute. So I'm like, oh God,
Yeah.
people, the internet is just like the comment section. I
Yeah.
actually go and read the comment sections of people whose works I really admire, like Robin Wall Kimmerer
Yeah.
is an example. I talked about
Oh,
this on the podcast in the past, and I'm like, you people, the things people will write, and as you say, it's like a 1-star review right beside a 5-star review. I can't respect that, so I don't really worry about that kind of stuff. But yeah, I thought that was a very sharp question. I was like, wow, okay, I'm gonna sit with that for a while. Like, yeah, what am I afraid of? Anyway, okay, we're
yeah.
wrapping up.
Let me contextualize that question a bit for listeners because it's not just ask the question and then spin out. That's not the
Yeah.
That's not the point of the
Do the
question.
work, Carmen.
It's
Yeah.
not the point of the question. The point is, this is, Carmen, you are someone who understands the power of shadow work. You are not afraid where other people tremble. You go in, you're like, let's talk about the apocalypse.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you afraid of? And like,
Yeah. Yeah.
so it's this, I think this is not, I think, this is part of the same mechanism where shining light on the deepest fear, then you can integrate that into the fullness of who you are. And it's not about good or bad. It's not about being like having someone say something that, like, of course we want it to be good. Of course we want it. I want my stuff to be good. But then you like good compared to what? Like
Yeah.
good as in relation to what? Like what is good? What does this signifier good mean? Like it's a floater. So of course we want it, but it's not worth anchoring to a floater like that. It's a post-it note that's anchored to nothing. Like not a useful place for us to go. So instead, like illuminating all of those post-it notes, then bringing it in allows you to write something that has the power that holds all of that within it, which is so much bigger than that and has like the spaciousness to hold it. And that's the purpose of that exercise and that pointed question.
Hmm. No,
So if you're listening,
it's an
don't.
excellent. I'm not. Yeah, I want to assure people I'm not spinning out on it. I was just devastated, and then had to really think about it and be like, yeah, what am I afraid of? This is like my avoidant attacher, not wanting to
Right,
attach to
right.
identity of writer or to my writing itself or that
Oh,
kind
that
of thing.
actually
But it's
makes a
like,
lot of sense when you place it
yeah,
that way. That makes a ton of sense. So
yeah,
then what would you advise like in avoid because sometimes with avoidance it can feel like secure attachment can sometimes look like avoidant
yeah.
attachment,
Well, yeah, absolutely. I personally, as a recovering avoidant, I would say, you really do need practice landing the safeness. And so
right?
there, for me, the thing that enabled me to write my first book, The Spirited Kitchen, was that, well, it doesn't actually matter what anybody says about my writing. This is a document for my child
Mm.
to know what we're all about. This is what we're
Beautiful.
all about. This is what you come from, and this is for you. And
So
everybody else can
beautiful.
have it too, because it would be way better. People, if everybody knows how to do the foxtrot, you can dance foxtrot with people. So it's like everybody should know this, but it doesn't really matter what anybody says. And it was the same with Spells for the Apocalypse, where when I look back, I do remember making myself cry a little bit writing the Spells for the Apocalypse, even though it was like just a little gift book. It's just a little light gift book. But there were moments of poignance where I was like, somebody needs this.
Yeah.
And I'm going to hold their hand, and that's what's really important about it. And knowing that I know people whose hands I've held through, I know these are really scary times with big things. Should you have children? Should you rent? Should you buy? Should you move? Should you try to live with your parents? Like really big things that I was like, no, I do want this to be out there for everyone. And so like the worst thing they could say is um, that it didn't sound like I cared or that I was
Right.
flippant or that I wasn't there as a supportive
Right.
person. I was too aloof. I was too distant. And I think my avoidant self, because integrity and having certain values are what we would attach to instead of people. Very often, a lot of avoidant people anyway will attach to excellence or competence or something else, right? As a sort of surrogate for love. And so it's like, well, I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna like write the shit out of this and it's gonna be good because, you know. So I'll do the same thing when my avoidant self comes up for a contact nutrition book, that it's like, yeah, the desire to not leave anything on the, like leave it all out on the field. That's what I would
Yeah.
attach to.
Yeah. I I feel like I feel seen in this other way. It's like I've never heard that expressed quite like that. I'm like, oh my God, like yeah, I'm totally like in a total relationship with integrity because
Yeah,
that's the one thing I can trust in this world.
totally.
Okay, gonna like
Yeah.
just gonna get off this podcast and think about that for a little while. Thanks, that's helpful. And the other thing that you mentioned is actually something that's really worth saying, and this might work really, really well for you and anyone listening who feels like you um, about writing this next book. Keeping the person in mind who you are writing it for,
Mm.
like the way you described your first book, is brilliant. I mean, the specific is the universal. So
Mm.
with like specific love and care that you write for one person, that is then everybody who reads it feels that love. And if they don't, it's okay because you've baked this. This is what I think about this, but about Story State of Mind. And the way I describe it is like, I just feel like I baked this tray of really chocolatey, amazing vegan brownies. They're hot from the oven. You don't like chocolate? Oh, cool. Okay. See, like it's not a personal thing because I
Yeah.
made something delicious and nutritious and not everyone's going to like it. And it's
Yeah.
okay. And with nonfiction, I have found this journey, this is my first book of nonfiction, so much easier
Mm.
to talk about, to give, to like to offer, to like it's just so much easier than fiction. So with fiction, there's a bit of that too, but it's so personal. Um, and maybe it's a gift to someone out there, and maybe you're writing it for somebody, but ultimately, I think a lot of fiction is written for ourselves. Like a lot of
Mhm.
authors say that, like they might dedicate it to somebody else. But if you're writing a work of fiction, if it's not a message book, like there are message books out there. I don't know. It's unfair to call the the series. Oh, what is it called? The Monk and the Robot series
Mm.
by Becky Carlson. Oh, gonna have to remember that because I've forgotten
Mm.
it. Um, really sweet, like solar punk, cozy solar punk.
Mm.
So sweet and it feels like a gift, and it feels not exactly like a message book, but kind of. It's like a little bit of a fable almost. It's so
Right.
lovely. Um, about a future. It's like a just like a really kind future vision for
Mm.
humanity and robots.
Mm.
Uh, but and I feel like maybe that could be like offered like brownies. Same with romance, same with some genre fiction, like here's some brownies. But if it's some literary fiction that you're like dealing with a personal story and you're reworking and rewriting, possibly even reliving some trauma as you were
Mm.
writing it, whether it is fiction or nonfiction, it's like that is a lot harder to publish, promote, talk about, and be reviewed on. So I just
Mm.
want to say that if anybody's listening who's doing that, like that, that re- I would put in extra buffers of support, um, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Good advice, Sarah. You have so much good advice, and it's all in this little book. Okay, you've been on the show a few times, so you've gotten our party questions already. The one about grief and rage, you've gotten the one about joy and pleasure. Since we are shifting into fall, it'll be Halloween, Samhain, the season of the witch. And I've been thinking about this a lot. My Scottish great granny, I had like family visiting this summer, and we were talking about how she would like scare the shit out of kids with her ghost stories. Like just like ghost stories that weren't even like, haha, oh, it's so fun to be scared, but like really scare the children. So let's talk about ghost stories. What if do you like ghost stories? Do you recoil from them? Do you respect them? Are there any that you remember that have like left a mark? Would you ever write a ghost story?
I love this question. I love ghosts. My first answer is yes. I love ghost stories. Like I have a great ghost story that's like a true ghost story, which I feel very lucky to have. I have not considered writing it. I do tell it sometimes. Um, but I love it. So yeah, I do not recoil from. I think there's something actually really wonderful and therapeutic and gorgeous and probably like old and timeless, like ancient
Yeah.
about our being pulled to ghost stories. I don't like yes, yes, there's an amazing podcast um that I think it's just called Ghost Story, actually.
Okay.
It came out last year. It's called Ghost Story. It's a series by a British guy named, I think his last name is Dancy. Um, that's unbelievable. That's just like a really unbelievable. The synchronicities, the ghost, it's like unbelievable. I will send you the link for it so you can grab
Thank
it.
you. Yeah, we'll put it in the
Um,
in the show notes too.
and I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of the unexplainable and the mysterious. And also like the thing with the place where ghost stories get annoying for me is like, is it true or not true? That question just feels like that's the part, like that's like prove it, not prove it. Like that's like I I also love magic, and a lot of people don't
Yeah,
love magicians. Like a lot of people are
right.
really repelled by magicians. I love anything that surprises me and makes me feel like the
Yeah,
inside, like all the inner workings of the world and physics and time and space as I know it are not like, yes, bring
yeah,
it on, bring it on.
yeah, yeah. I love to be marveled as well and just like, oh, what?
Do you know any good
And
ones?
well, I do know some because I know people who've experienced ghost stories. I I wouldn't say I've had visitations that I wouldn't quite call ghost stories. And so but I love ghost stories and now I'm like, "Ooh, I want to see if I can I'm going to have you back because I want to do an episode where people are telling me the ghost stories because I love a good real live here's my ghost story thing.
Oh my gosh.
Um I
It's
shouldn't
all
say
coming to
okay,
me now. Yeah.
yes, there's well, and some people though that their ghost stories really freak them out. So I don't know if they'll
Yeah.
be able to like reshare them, but maybe I could retell them. But I've been
Yeah.
in haunted places before, and I've helped people to deal with ghosts more than once. I shouldn't say Sarah, I actually am forgetting. I do have a ghost story where I was doing trance work with somebody who had like a poltergeist, and while she was in trance, poltergeisty things started happening. The
Yeah.
television turned on,
Yeah.
like, but on
Yeah.
mute, and then was like changing channels in response to her with her eyes closed in trance. I would ask her a question about this ghost and it would change the channel. So I started asking her yes and no questions. I know, right? So I
Yeah,
love that kind of
I
stuff.
love it makes sense. And like what is it? What is it? Is it a ghost? Is it
What's
like
happening?
what's
Yeah.
happening? There's I want to share this because this is kind of a cool this is kind of a cool story that's related. Um, do you maybe you have read Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert?
Oh,
Have you read
maybe
this
when it
book
came out.
when
Yeah.
it came out? So there was this story that Liz told about in that book that she speaks about or used to speak about quite often about wanting to write a novel and trying and trying and trying and keeping it in a drawer and it was like unwritten for a really long time and that she had this idea and she was trying to write it and trying to write it and then she just didn't write it for a long time. And then one year the novel State of Wonder by Anne Patchett came out and she read this book and she was like, "Oh my God, my idea found another person to come through. It's this is my book." And she had pages written. She had like this is a spooky occurrence that I do also have stories about this sort of stuff that happens because when you go deep into trance to write and you're like, working with an idea that's coming from who knows where for a long time, spooky stuff happens.
Yeah.
Spooky stuff happens. And it's wonderful and I love it. And it's also like, whoa, because then you're trying to make sense of it in the world of like publishing and bookshelves and stuff, and it's hard. So I had the opportunity to bring Ann Patchett into my school as a guest mentor, And we were talking. She was wonderful. I love Ann Patchett's work. Love her. And I said, okay, so I gotta ask because Liz Gilbert's book is out there. This was like maybe a year or so after Big Magic came out. It's like, there's this story about State of Wonder and Elizabeth Gilbert, and like, what's your side of the story? Because I've only ever heard hers. And Anne, who's just such a frank, clean, like even her sentences are just like so crisp and no games in here. Just like all skill, all muscle, all sinew of good story and character. And like that's it. There's nothing else that you're gonna get. And you're gonna get it regularly because she's just that kind of an author. She said I that she loves Liz. Liz is like a friend. She's super smart. She loves her mind. She loves her intelligence. She loves her heart. They're friends. It's great. And they don't see things the same way. And I said, what do you mean? She said, well, I'll put it this way. If you're in a house and there's a sound from the upper floor, one person might say, oh, did you hear there's a ghost upstairs? And the other person might say, oh, did you hear the sound upstairs? I choose the ghost.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
way more
Same.
fun for the way I live in life.
Yeah, well, and I don't know, like, yeah. Okay, well, we're seeing it all differently, but I choose the ghost as well because maybe I just feel I'm more in relationship with them. That's like
Right.
yeah, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, actually, JB McKinnon, we were having like one of those like very late night, the fire's going out. We're the last two awake talking about the creative process, talking about like trancy things, talking about spirituality, talking about, and he's not that kind of guy. He's not a woo-woo guy at all, but was so kind of like fascinated, like, but how do you believe that kind of thing? And I was like, I don't even know how to tell you how. I just know that I feel bad for you that you don't,
Yeah.
you know? Like, I
Yeah.
was like, I'm sorry, I can't. It's like
Yeah.
trying to explain to somebody like what is orgasm like? What is
Yeah.
chocolate like? It's like you can either I wanted to do like a basic hypno thing with him, like lemon test. It's like if I say lemon, do you not pucker?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? It's like that's how
Yeah.
real it is,
Yeah.
Anyway, Sarah, your work is brilliant. You are brilliant. You are so
Oh, Carmen.
helpful for people. This has been like therapeutic and fun and exciting. And I do you have anything you're working on that you're in relationship right now?
Oh, I love you. I love your questions. I love your podcast. I love these calls. I'm coaching. I am working on right now, I'm working on helping that source material that is stuck come through the writers who have been called to write it. And it feels like that is the greatest impact for me right now because I can have multiple books coming out and watching and like expressing themselves and midwifing them, if you will. And it's super helpful and edifying and just like my favorite work right now. After writing Story State of Mind, it really felt like an ending of something that has been ongoing for not an ending, it's also a new beginning, but an ending in that like big life change way where this book has been wanting to be written since I was 25 years old, honestly. Um, so now that that's done, I have an agreement with my writing that I won't write anything if it doesn't need to be written. But if something needs to be written, I will drop everything to write it. And I am open. So until that happens, I am of service to the other books that feel very important to be written.
Well, thank you for your service, Sarah. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks, Carmen.
If you're listening to this episode in October of 2025, you're probably just in time to join Sarah's Breakup with Social Media retreat. It's happening on October 25th. It's a 4-hour retreat. It looks so, so good. But if you're looking for more consistent support that feels kind of like the conversation you just heard, it offers structure and support and mentoring, then consider becoming a member of her online community. It's called Centered, and it's just $38 a month and offers workshops, mentoring, co-writing sessions. It's truly exactly what we all hope the internet could deliver, right? Content and connection. It sounds really, really good. And her story course, of course, is always open. So you could start right now. And I'll put all those links in the show notes. You'll find the show notes in your podcast player or on the web at numinouspodcast.com. I want to move to reviews and thanks, as always. And this time, thank Liz, who gave my book, The Spirited Kitchen, a 5-star review on Goodreads. This is just a very Spirited Kitchen time of month for me, or time of year, I should say, because its publication date was October 22nd. I don't actually know I think it was October 22nd. I don't actually remember what the exact date was, but it was October in 2022. And so it's giving anniversary vibes, right? So it's very special to me to look and see if there are any new reviews of The Spirited Kitchen. I'm surprised there's over 100 now. That delights me to no end. Anyway, Liz took the time to write this one, and Liz wrote, I read this season by season over the course of a year. I loved that it brought some additional intention and awareness to the changing seasons and provided a little history and magic for each. I'm not much of a chef, but I loved the recipes. I made the Colcannon mash and have a few others in mind to make when the mood strikes. This is so great, Liz, because that's exactly what I was hoping. I was hoping people would read it over the course of a year. I mean, of course, you want to sit down and flip through and, but I love that you went through it exactly as I had intended. And I love that you may say you're not much of a chef, but I bet after doing a few of these recipes, you're like, wow, this is not hard. This is pretty good. It can sound really involved sometimes, but when you get into it, they're really not. There's a lot in there that's really easy. And honestly, that particular recipe, my mouth is watering now. I'm craving it now. I'm definitely going to make it for dinner this week because it's fall. And I would say a simple kind of zhuzh of garlicky mashed potatoes with some kale and cabbage. And then, of course, the gravy boat of butter. That's exactly what I'm craving right now. So thanks for that reminder, Liz. It's a personal favorite of mine, too. And I'm delighted that you enjoyed it. And thank you for taking the time to write. It's my 50th birthday this month, friends, and Canada Post is on strike. So you can't send me a card, which is kind of what I had hoped would happen. But what you could do is add a review for this podcast or one of my books, and I would totally consider that a sweet little love note and a little birthday present. I would super appreciate it, and it would just make me feel great because, who doesn't like a nice review? That's the perfect gift to give somebody who creates things, right? And if you're in need of support this fall, or you're just in the mood for a contact nutrition-rich environment, then you could consider joining us in the Numinous Network. We host nearly 50 live events each month. When I say us, there's me and a dozen other guides. There's also a lot of on-demand video courses about attachment, contact nutrition, teaching and course design, collapse and moral injury, and also intuition and spiritual development, really fun, relaxing things, and just in time for the season of the witch. We also offer the Safe and Sound Protocol, Dr. Stephen Porges' music listening program for polyvagal support. And we must be offering it at one of, if not the most accessible price point you're ever going to find it. I haven't heard of anything comparable. We're all about reducing gatekeeping here at the Numinous Network. So check out the live schedule for the Numinous Network at carmenspanyola.com. CarmenSpagnola. Until next time, take care.